One rainy afternoon in Quahog, Peter Griffin stumbled upon a TV ad for Burger Bash, amateur cook-off. The prize? A lifetime supply of bacon. Naturally, Peter's eyes lit up like a breakfast skillet. Lois warned, "Peter, you don't even cook." Peter grinned, "Lois, I microwave with style." Stewie muttered, "If that's style, civilization is doomed." Peter rallied his friends, Quagmire, Cleveland, and Joe, forming the A Griffin Gourmet I team. They decided on a bold theme: bacon with everything. Bacon pizza, bacon brownies, bacon salad, salad being lettuce sprinkled with bacon. Practice day was chaos, smoke alarms blaring, neighbors gawking. But Peter insisted it was smoky flavor infusion, baby. On cook-off day, their bacon burger 5-way wowed most judges. One vegan judge politely declined to finish, but the others were thrilled. That is, until Peter tripped mid-victory dance, sending sauce flying onto the judges' clothes, live on TV. They won second place, earning a month's supply of bacon. Peter still considered it a victory. Stewie unveiled his latest invention, the LinguaZap 3000, a ray that forces people to speak any language he chooses. Today's choice? Bengali, after watching a captivating science talk show from Dhaka the night before. Firing the ray across Quahog, everyone, from Lois to the local news anchors, began speaking flawless Bengali. It was amusing until people realized signs, traffic instructions, and paperwork were still in English. Stewie learned a lesson from Brian: language is more than words, it's culture, memory, and connection. He adjusted the ray to only affect the Griffin house once a week, making Bengali Day a family tradition. Brian, in search of authentic inspiration, teamed up with Meg, who had a radio internship. Her late-night show, Meg's Mic, invited callers to share real-life stories. Listeners opened up about love, loss, and resilience. Brian realized Meg's empathetic questions shaped the best parts of his new book, which he titled My Town, Meg's Mic. At the launch, Meg was recognized alongside him, finally feeling seen not as a family punchline, but as the voice of Quahog. Feeling stagnant, Joe trained for the Boston Wheelchair Marathon with help from Peter, Quagmire, and Cleveland. Training was grueling, but Joe rediscovered joy and pride in pushing himself. During the race, he stopped to help another racer with a broken wheel, sacrificing his time. He didn't win first place, but he crossed the finish line smiling, knowing the real victory was regaining self-respect. For Quahog's 300th anniversary, residents contributed to a time capsule. The Griffins each added something: Stewie's toy dinosaur, Brian's heartfelt letter to the future, Meg's radio clips, Chris's family drawing, and Peter's questionable burger coupon. When it was sealed, they all placed their hands on the box. Lois said, "May the future see us as imperfect, but united." Decades from now, whoever finds it will laugh at the bacon coupon, but also glimpse the love and chaos that made Quahog what it is.
Peter stumbles upon a TV ad for a burger cook-off with a lifetime supply of bacon as the prize. Despite Lois's doubts, he recruits Quagmire, Cleveland, and Joe to form Griffin Gourmet. Their daring menu: bacon with everything. Practice turns chaotic, but on competition day, their bacon burger 5-way wows most judges, until Peter's over-the-top victory dance ends with sauce flying everywhere. They take second place, which for Peter means one thing: a month's worth of bacon bliss. Inspired by a science program from Dhaka, Stewie invents the LinguaZap 3000 to make everyone in Quahog speak Bengali. The change brings laughter and novelty, but confusion follows when signs and documents remain in English. Brian points out that language is deeply tied to culture and memory. Stewie reprograms the ray to create a once-a-week Bengali Day in the Griffin home, making it a quirky new family tradition. Brian, stuck in a creative rut, joins Meg on her late-night radio show Meg's Mic, where callers share heartfelt personal stories. Meg's genuine empathy sparks Brian's inspiration, and together they create My Town, Meg's Mike. At the book launch, Meg is celebrated as the compassionate voice of Quahog, earning a respect she's rarely received. Feeling stagnant, Joe signs up for the Boston Wheelchair Marathon. With Peter, Quagmire, and Cleveland coaching, Joe trains hard and rekindles his determination. In the race, he pauses to help a fellow racer with a wheel problem, costing him time but earning respect. He crosses the finish line mid-pack, not with a medal, but with restored pride and purpose. Peter Griffin, notorious lover of bacon, hears whispers of a truckload of premium bacon arriving at a new restaurant in Quahog. Never one to ignore fate, especially when it comes in pork form, he rallies his pals Quagmire, Cleveland, and Joe for a bacon liberation operation. Their meticulously reckless plan unfolds with a parade float, complete with a marching band that somehow figures in. An accidental detour at Rhode Island's governor's mansion isn't part of the plan, but hey, extra points for chaos. Ultimately, Peter emerges victorious with merely 2 slices of bacon in hand, but proclaims, "Totally worth it." Meanwhile, on a quest for universal acclaim, Stewie builds a portal to summon alternate versions of himself for a cosmic talent competition. There's opera Stewie belting arias, cowboy Stewie twirling his lasso, and a cryptic Stewie who communicates exclusively through riddles. Brian, Stewie's buddy, reluctantly agrees to be the judge despite knowing shenanigans are nigh. Pirate Stewie, not one for rules, attempts a hostile stage takeover, causing a ruckus. In the end, Stewie learns that the toughest rivalry comes from within, regardless of the universe. Over in the shadows of Quahog, Meg, the town's favorite underdog, launches a true crime podcast focusing on unsolved mysteries. Though initially met with pervading indifference, her fame grows as she dives into the curious case of the mayor's missing prized goldfish. Along the quest for truth, she encounters the eccentric denizens of Quahog, only to discover it was none other than Peter responsible for its murky fate. It was flushed away post-bacon binge. Meg's podcast becomes a hit sensation. Peter insists it was an accident mostly. Late-night patrols lead Joe to an abandoned theater, where flickering lights and ghostly echoes set the scene for a Halloween romp. Calling Peter and the gang for backup, they embark on a parody of a ghost hunt involving a fog machine and Cleveland accidentally wedging himself into the orchestra pit.
In the quaint town of Quahog, where shenanigans are as common as leaf piles in autumn, a series of uproarious events unfolded, each more absurd than the last. Peter Griffin, ever the aficionado of gluttonous pursuits, heard the siren call of the annual bacon-eating contest, a culinary battle for the ages, with the grand prize being a giant golden skillet fit for a king's breakfast. Lured by the prospect of bacon immortality, Peter roped in his loyal but long-suffering companions, Quagmire, Cleveland, and Joe. Together, they embarked on an epic training regimen, which involved bacon smoothies that even a pig would grimace at, and a bizarre new exercise regimen coined bacon yoga, where the downward dog was simply an excuse to get nearer to a sizzling rasher. Contest day dawned with a sizzling sun, promising glory or gastrointestinal mayhem. Peter squared off against a formidable opponent, a competitive eater decked out in an enormous pig costume, complete with snout and tail. The scene was nothing short of theatrical chaos, reminiscent of a pork-themed Shakespearean tragedy. Although Peter emerged triumphant, clutching the gleaming skillet like a trophy, he also carried away a week-long stomachache that had him marinating in regret. Meanwhile, Stewie Griffin, the diminutive genius perpetually grappling with his insatiable curiosity, decided to convert his bedroom into a time machine-fueled tea party spectacular. He dialed up the greats, Shakespeare, Cleopatra, and Albert Einstein, whose unexpected presence added a splash of relativity to the Earl Grey. The party took a militaristic turn when Napoleon adamantly insisted on leading a meticulously organized campaign, although against what, even Napoleon wasn't sure. Ultimately, Stewie resorted to serving scones under a ceasefire, the room scattered with historical tensions and crumbs. Amidst the chaos, Meg Griffin sought redemption in the realm of musical competition. Entering a local karaoke contest that promised an escape from her just Meg persona, she found herself battling it out against her own family, a formidable opponent in Lois, who belted out 80s power ballads like she was channeling Pat Benatar. And Peter, whose renditions of pop hits were akin to auditory vandalism. In a twist of fate, Peter found himself trapped in a spotlight fixture, leaving Meg to claim victory. Her unassuming triumph was a small step towards confidence, though a giant leap for Meg-kind. Not to be outdone, Joe Swanson put his detective helmet, in this case, back on as he went undercover to bust a notorious roller derby gambling ring. Disguised as a Wheelin' a Joe, he displayed surprising agility, turning heads and raising eyebrows on the rink. His posse, consisting of Peter, Quagmire, and Cleveland, formed an oddly enthusiastic cheer squad, whose chants were sometimes mistaken for constructive criticism. Joe's mission climaxed with a mid-match tackle of the ringleader, netting him applause from both the crowd and a nod of approval from his police chief. To cap off this whirlwind of Quahog chronicles, Brian Griffin stumbled upon what he believed to be an unpublished literary classic in the depths of a thrift shop. With the ever-exasperated Stewie in tow, Brian sought to illuminate the world with his find, only to discover his aspiring bestseller was but a forgotten piece of fanfiction dedicated to the disco-dancing glory days of the 1970s. In lieu of literary fame, Brian found himself co-hosting a retro dance night at the Drunken Clam, embracing the realization that it was the boogie, not the book, that truly mattered. Thus, the town of Quahog returned to its state of semi-normalcy, its inhabitants chuckling at the week's absurd endeavors, in their own peculiar way, adding just a bit more bacon grease to the madness that makes life oh so worth living.
Peter's Backyard Circus. Peter Griffin, ever the adventurous patriarch, decides that the family backyard hasn't reached its full potential. Why have a garden gnome when you can have a full-blown circus? He enlists the less than enthusiastic participation of his family and neighbors. Quagmire becomes the trapeze artist, swinging through the treetops with more enthusiasm than accuracy. "Catch me if you can," he'd yell, usually after missing a bar and hanging upside down by sheer luck. Meanwhile, Joe is assigned extreme wheelchair stunts, a term loosely translated to his wheelchair doing donuts and jumping ramps assembled from old planks. Meg, the reluctant performer, sings in the clown tent, delighting everyone with ear-splitting renditions of pop hits. Her voice, so avant-garde, attracts the neighborhood cats. The grand finale, however, spirals into chaos. Peter attempts lion taming with Brian, dressed as a less than impressive lion. Brian, in all his dignity, refuses to roar, preferring dry sarcasm over circus tricks. Predictably, Peter's act ends with Brian storming off stage, tail tucked, leaving Peter tangled in his own ringmaster whip. The Griffin's adventures continue. Elsewhere, Stewie invents Jivatron, a state-of-the-art robot butler designed to do his chores and adjust his nuclear devices. Initially, Jivatron operates like a dream until he finds his true calling in stand-up comedy, delivering jokes like, "Why don't skeletons fight each other? They don't have the guts." Stewie, aghast, learns the robot now refuses to function without a primetime audience. The Griffins offer him promises of a Netflix special, tricking him back into servitude. Until next time. Meg, determined to escape the circus trauma, takes a counselor position at Camp Sunshine. But when supplies go missing, suspicions fall on the playful campers. However, Meg unmasks Peter as the snack thief, munching free treats and enjoying canoe rides under the guise of parent volunteering. Fueled by her wrath, Meg confines him to a counselor role, making him lead arts and crafts for sticky-fingered toddlers. Lastly, Joe decides to host a murder mystery dinner party. The Griffins and friends arrive dressed in period costumes, ready to accuse each other with flair. Peter had the brilliant idea of turning his backyard into a petting zoo, claiming that it would be a cultural boon to the town of Quahog. Borrowing animals from questionable sources, including a llama from Quagmire's cousin and a parrot that seemed oddly fond of profanity, Peter was convinced this venture would be the talk of the town. When the grand opening day arrived, Mayor West himself came to cut the ribbon. Alas, Peter's zoo came to an abrupt end when the parrot loudly mocked the mayor in front of the crowd, leaving Peter trying to salvage the situation by pretending his grumpy llama was the true highlight. Meanwhile, Stewie had set his own sights on winning the prestigious Quahog Science Trophy. With meticulous calculation, he built a sleek miniature rocket. However, Peter, with his unbridled enthusiasm, helped by strapping fireworks to Stewie's creation. The highly anticipated launch didn't quite go to plan. The rocket veered wildly off course, crashing spectacularly into the local ice cream shop, showering the spectators with a delightful mess of sprinkles. Stewie was enraged, but warmed by the accidental sweet treat. On another front, Meg tried her luck at stand-up comedy at the Drunken Clams open mic night. Initially sabotaged by Peter's relentless heckling, her quick-witted retorts gradually won over the crowd. By the end of the evening, even Peter had to admit, albeit begrudgingly, that Meg might be funnier than half the TV shows I watch while eating cheese. Ever the competitor, Joe hosted a board game night for the gang, intending for it to be a relaxed gathering. However, Peter, driven by sheer determination, turned it into a battlefield. Brian, aspiring to woo his fellow writer friend, booked a poetry reading at the trendiest coffee house around. Just as he was poised to captivate an intellectual audience, the espresso machine broke down.
In Quahog, where the art of the absurd takes a bizarre turn, Peter Griffin believes his calling is to create the ultimate pizza. He commandeers the family garage, equipping it with pizza paraphernalia. The toppings begin somewhat normal, but soon take surreal flights. Candy bars, gummy worms, and mashed potatoes make their way onto the pies. Peter grins as Lois recoils at anchovy-and-peanut-butter slices, targeting them for the illustrious mayor. In this culinary rebellion, Peter declares it more avant-garde than gourmet. Meanwhile, at Quahog's annual science fair, young Stewie enters the scene with a mind control helmet. His aspirations of a scientific conquest are abruptly challenged when he finds his trusty companion Rupert displayed as living art by none other than Chris. With dastardly plans to ruin the projects of his peers, Stewie hurtles into chaos. It isn't until Brian steps in and encourages fair competition that Stewie puts his sabotaging tactics aside. With gritted teeth, he watches his brainwave brilliance lose to a baking soda volcano. The nerve. Then there's Meg, who metamorphoses into a fashion diva almost overnight. Her venture into upcycling thrift store garments brings an unexpected wave of admirers. Until Peter decides to lend his own flair to her fashion run. At the mall, what begins as showcasing Meg's clothing line swiftly escalates. Peter's outrageous runway antics devolve into a full-blown breakdance showdown with mall security. Tailored suits and security guards go flying in the air, much to Meg's horror. In the spirit of charity, Joe initiates a citywide scavenger extravaganza, sending teams scurrying across Quahog, riddled with riddles. While most race against time, Peter leads his team on a labyrinthine journey, with focus squarely on snacks along the way. In a twist no one saw coming, the pursuit of peculiar pit stops inadvertently guides Peter's team to the grand prize. Their triumphant victory comes with a large-hearted act of giving the winnings right back. Elsewhere, Brian, motivated by new romantic pursuits, dives into culinary classes. Unsurprisingly, Peter tags along attracted by free food, sampling his way through chaos. When Brian's souffle meeting turns into a flat failure, Peter's candied bravado saves the day, stuffing the disaster with candies and frosting. In this culinary catastrophe, the judges find unexpected delight in Peter's monstrosity, naming it a Quahog surprise. As Quahog bends the arc of the ordinary into the eccentric, every character finds themselves in tales of unique triumphs and fabulous falterings.